Welcome to Manage to Engage, the podcast from clearandopen.com, dedicated to the evolution of you because businesses grow when people do. Serving leaders, managers, and people who will be, helping you reach excellence in your work and achieve your personal goals at the same time. Sign up for the free course at clearandopen.com. If you don't seek challenges and say, I'm going to do this to find out what I'm made of, if that's not happening somewhere in your life, then it's very easy to slip into a life is happening to me kind of orientation. Hi, it's Joseph, and thanks for tuning in to Manage to Engage, the podcast from clearandopen.com. In the last episode, I extended an invitation to all of you. When you want to accomplish something great, when you look at a challenge in front of you, don't just look at the content of it, the skills, the learning, the actions, the doing the thing requires. In addition, ask yourself, how is this challenge testing me? How is life inviting me to be a bigger version of myself? Because if you don't examine the context of the challenge and choose to test yourself, then you're going to feel inevitably victimized by how life tries to change you in the process. Any path to greatness requires you to change on levels you can only barely predict in advance. Meister Eckhart said the following about dying, but it's true about any kind of change. Dying, of course, is the big change. He said, if you're frightened of dying and you're holding on, you'll see devils tearing your life away. If you've made your peace, then the devils are really angels freeing you from the earth. I offer weekly member webcasts, online courses, and mentorship at clearandopen.com because it's my truth that with the right tools, anyone can eliminate the people, money, and time problems holding them back in business. And I share parts of these webcasts and courses on this show because I want to help you too. If you're enjoying the show and learning from it, I'd love your feedback. If you're listening to the show on an Apple device, all you have to do is open up the podcast app, view the full description of this episode, and then click the link to leave a rating and review for the show. Thanks so much for listening. Let's start the show. A Don Juan quote I like to use a lot from Castaneda, something like, the difference between an ordinary man and an extraordinary man, and by man he meant womans and men, men and women both. The difference between an extraordinary person and an ordinary person is that an ordinary person sees everything as a blessing or a curse, and a warrior sees everything as a challenge. And I would say, and I think Castaneda would agree, to go beyond that, if you don't seek challenges and say, I'm going to do this to find out what I'm made of, if that's not happening somewhere in your life, then it's very easy to slip into a life is happening to me kind of orientation. And that's very tiring, I find, because, and this goes very quickly to the frame you have for what life is, right? This gets to your existential philosophy immediately. Because if you think the point of life is to be happy in any significant way, then anytime something happens that challenges you deeply, it's a curse, right? It's in the way of your objective. But as Lao Tzu said, the path to success is failure. The challenges that find us, that appear to be so random sometimes, or so cruel or difficult, or, out of nowhere, they are your path. But they are not your path to being happy or comfortable, or to have a life of ease. Because that's not what life is about. Now you might say, well, Joseph, how do you know what life is about? Well, I certainly don't absolutely know what life is about, but I look around and I see life is not conspiring to make us comfortable. Where is the evidence of that? Same with animals, right? You guys have all heard me talk about this. So if you align too much with comfort, then it erodes your ability to choose a challenge in order to be tested. And unfortunately, the realm in which we're tested the most is school, where we're tested on all sorts of stuff that is a complete and total waste of our time. It's not a test of our character, but things like a test of our ability to sit still, learn and regurgitate information, minimally get along with others, really low bars. And these tests don't pay off much. I mean, just think about it. You're going to be tested for about 15 years full time. And what's your reward? Basic literacy and a myriad of facts you'll never use. And some people listening would say, well, you learn how to learn. You spend a few hours studying, learning methodology, you'll learn that school failed you in that as well. Because you learn that incidentally at best. There are ways to learn that are exponentially more effective than what we learn in school. So then I think that makes us jaded. We get out of that and we go, oh, finally, I'm free. No, I don't have to be tested anymore. I remember the moment I finished my last final in college, I was so burned out. I was, ironically, Intro to Buddhism was the name of the course. Took the last final. I remember exactly where I was. It was a sunny June day in Evanston, Illinois. And I said, I don't ever have to take another test ever again if I don't want to. And then I packed away my black belt in jiu-jitsu and moved to San Francisco, put on a white belt, and chose test after test after test, tests that were meaningful for me, and many after that. Because the escape from those kinds of tests, it's not my experience that life rewards you for those things. Life rewards you choosing tests. And again, the content I don't think matters nearly as much as what it is you're learning about yourself. Because as any competitive athlete will tell you, it's not about the sport. It's about getting to experience what you're made of, what you're capable of, your power. For me, I think it all began, I was 16 or 17, and there was a swim meet that was particularly important. Forget why. I think it was the most important meet. It was the closest competitor we had. And swim meets are funny because it's all individual competitions, but it adds up. There's points. And there was this long pause between the penultimate event and the very last event. And everybody started getting restless. What's going on? What's going on? Why is it taking so long for us to set up the last event? Finally, over the loudspeaker, it said, we've added up the scores for both teams, which typically they wouldn't do until the very end, but someone had been doing it. Usually there are a few events behind, but they took the time to add it up and checked it twice. And they said, we've determined that the winner of the next event wins the meet. That's how close it was. There's this big hush in the crowd. And the last event was a relay. And so it's just each team has one relay team. And I was the anchor of that relay. So last swimmer on it. And there's only so many events you can swim in a meet because you can't have your best swimmers go again and again and again. It depends on the league, but I think each person can only swim 3 events. And a lot of our best swimmers were already used up, so we couldn't use them. So by the time it got to me, we were a half length behind. And this was just a 50-yard race. So it's a 50-yard race, and I was a half length behind by the time it got to me. And a half length on a 50-yard race is not something you make up. That just doesn't happen. You're 25% behind, But the guy who had just dived in ahead of me, and the guy who was a half length behind, I'd been watching him for way too long because I had 10 whole seconds or so to watch him swim. And he wasn't moving very fast. And so for whatever reason, I thought, I think I can make this up. It just hit me like, yeah, this is possible. So when I hit the wall and did my flip turn, when I saw his feet, and I knew I'd covered about half of that distance. And as I was swimming the second length, and we were stroke for stroke for the last, 15 feet, I remember being overcome with this feeling of, the question came to me from like, I don't know what, it was like a booming voice that just said, who wants it more? Who wants it more? And I just got that it had nothing to do with my body or how many more breaths I would take, at the end of the race or anything. It was just who wants it more? And it was like that question overcame every cell in my body. And when I touched the wall, I didn't even really know that I had just barely touched him out until the people out of the water pulled me literally out of the water, and I was on their shoulders and in the air, and I just barely touched him out. And that was the moment where I learned about my own personal will and the power that had. That was probably the moment where I became obsessed with what I was capable of. And it no longer became about swimming or diving or water polo or martial arts or metaphysics or whatever. I just had a hunger of, I want to know what that is. What is that? What is that voice that says you can do more? It's just a question of whether you want it or not. Dig deep and find out. Thanks for listening to Manage to Engage, the Clear and Open podcast. Join us next week when you'll be a little bit closer to who you're destined to be. Until then, know that Clear and Open is dedicated to the evolution of you, because businesses grow when people do. If you want to help the show grow, I'd appreciate you leaving a rating and review on iTunes. All you have to do is open the Apple Podcasts app, view the full description of the episode, and click the link to leave a rating and review. Or you can go to clearandopen.com/review, and it will bring you to the right place. If you're looking for more support on your journey, head over to clearandopen.com for even more tools, articles, and free resources. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.